Hello and namaskar. Welcome everybody to the D Show. I'm so sorry about being 3-4 minutes late. We were facing technical glitch. It's the technology world. And I wanted to make sure that when my guest comes in, we all meet him without any flaw in audio or video. Finally, my team has got that fixed. So thank God for tech stars to making our life easy. This goes out to all the driven people who are making everybody's life easy in a world full of digital disruption and digitization. So, once again, a warm welcome to the D Show today. This is season 2, episode 3, and I'm very excited because today I've pulled in an authentic leader from the world of education. Education that is impacting, inspiring, and influencing the youth of today. Before I introduce him and bring him on the show, let me show you a little bit of a sneak peek. So take a look. Hi, Chetan. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Dr. D. Thank you for inviting me to the D Show, and a very good evening to all the audience that has logged into the D Show to join our conversation this evening. Great to be here. Thank you.
It's a privilege and a pleasure, and I know I have been chasing you for some months now to bring you in. You like to be in the shadows, and you are the person who makes everybody look good. So thank you for agreeing here with me. It's a pleasure.
Likewise, absolutely. Looking
So
forward
let
to getting some interesting, free flowing conversation happening this evening.
Absolutely, Chetan. So let me tell all my audience that when I came to Pune almost a decade back, Chetan is one of those very few leaders who inspired me to be a better version of myself. And Chetan, I've never said that to you on your face, and today I'm confessing that live that you've been an inspiration,
Thank you.
and you also have made me a better person. You have also made me a better leader, not just the youngsters in your college that you inspire, but you have inspired leaders like me as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So let's get going. And I think I'm going to invite the comments, feedback, and everybody who's watching the show right now. Please feel free to stream it live with us. Share your comments, share your questions. We would love your engagement because this is an unfiltered conversation where we're going to talk about a lot of things which are difficult conversations, but we're going to make it absolutely easy from an educational industry and educational leadership point of view. So, Chetan, we already have our fans coming in here. We have Vishal saying, "Welcome, Dr. D," and we have Dipanshu.
Okay, that's
We have
nice.
we have Dr. Shankar here. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. It's a privilege to have you here on our show, and this is encouraging for us. Excellent. So while the questions and these comments are coming in, Purva is saying, "Good evening, Chetan sir and Dr. D." Chetan, I'm going to take you back in time and I'm going to
Sure.
ask you that what is the biggest challenge that you have ever faced? I mean, you're such a young leader in an industry where we are used to seeing very, very elderly people as deans and directors. To change that game. So, how did you do that?
That's an interesting question. Well, challenges is very much a part of everyone's life. But maybe out of the multiple challenges over the last 27, 28 years that we may have faced at Indira, I think would sound pretty interesting. And I would like to share this specific one. When we started off at Indira in 1994, you know, our founder was my eldest sister, Tarita Shankar, and me. We were both, and of course, our family and friends very much were there. But both of us were hands-on into getting Indira going. And at that time, both of us were in our 20s. So you can imagine that the mid 1990s, when education was exploding, the Indian government had come up with the LPG liberalization, privatization, globalization uh, policies, and India was trying to transit from a largely agriculture-driven economy to a service industry. That was when India, the IT revolution was starting, and we were two youngsters who didn't know much about education. And naturally, when we started off, it was difficult for all the people who are literally 2 decades older than us, or maybe even older, to kind of we would have committees who would come to visit us before we started off with the MBA program. And they were very skeptical. They said, how are these youngsters going to run a business school? And the whole committee was people who were so senior. And when the first time they visited Indira, the kind of fear and the heartbeat beating at such a pace, and the kind of look which they would give us, saying that, oh, the youngsters are going to run education now. Wow, is this what education has come to? Well, today we are living in an exactly opposite world, where the younger you are, the more capable you are of running a startup, starting a business as an entrepreneur. The younger you are, there'll be bigger company, funds and equity waiting out there for you to put in your startup, because the ideas which you'll come up with are far more relevant to today's generation. So that those times, like nearly for a first 5-6 years, we would always have this thing where seniors in this field of education, a lot of them were helpful. I think the ones who were really helpful made a big difference to what we are today and helped Indira grow. But then there would always be the critics and the skeptics who would look at us. And for me and my elder sister, our chairperson, for both of us to try and prove them wrong was a big challenge. And I think looking back now, we laugh on those days, and they are great memories to carry forward. And I think we managed to prove a point, surely, now that we see where we have come to.
Wow. So we have, very good leaders like Renu Bhargav joining us here on the show. Thank you. Thank you, Renu ma'am, for being with us here. Let me tell all the audience, I've had the privilege of working with Dr. Shankar and Chetan. Chetan, your knowledge, the way you bring insights, the way you resolve conflicts, I think I'm a big fan of all those skills, because you are a leader who personifies collaboration. But I know at the start of the show, I'm bringing to light, another question which probably very few people might ask you. That at in time when you were going through those young years of establishing a brand, of proving your knowledge and your capabilities, you and your sister, did you guys ever sit back and did you have a dull day that, oh my God, we are feeling broken and we are feeling rejected? Or because when we see both of you, when we see Indra Group, we see only a success story. So can you share a moment like that happened, and how did you cope with it? Because that would inspire a lot of youngsters watching the show today, a lot of professional people who are watching today who've gone through tough times with the pandemic. When you get demotivated, what do you do? How did you cope with that?
Okay, I'll again go back to the years when we started. In the first mid 1990s, when we started off, after we started off with the business school and the MBA program of Pune University. And a few years down the line, we realized the demand for management education is humongous. And we started an autonomous PGDM program, which was being offered in Pune by Symbiosis. They were the pioneers for PGDM autonomous. And then other business schools picked up, and we thought, because management education has such demand, there is a potential for the same. And we being a new brand, in the first few years, uh, we realized that a lot of students come to Pune because it's considered as Oxford of the East. And Pune had a strong industrial base. It was a reasonably safe city to stay in. And being closer to Bombay, which is the financial, there was a lot of opportunity for placements and jobs and exposure. So the challenge was for us to go and get students from outside to Pune for PGDM programs, specially. And initially, I remember when Sarita and I used to travel cities like Bhopal, Indore, even Rajasthan, Jaipur, Udaipur, we would actually go and give an advertisement in the local newspapers saying we are available for a few days for counseling students out there. We invite students and parents to come to meet us, and we are located at such and such a conference room of such and such a hotel. And there have been days when the whole morning has gone by where both of us have been having a cup of tea and coffee, and there's actually no inquiry, no student has walked in. And we have done this thing in multiple cities for years together. But of course, most of the time we used to get a good response. But then there have been those days where we felt that, wow, how is our batch going to fill up this year? What kind of students are we going to get? And everyone, when you're starting out, I think the thing to keep in mind out here is whether you start off on a job as a career, or you start off as an entrepreneur, or you start up with some new company of yours. The initial years building a good brand and building a good customer base or a good student base, and where the program itself starts pulling the students in on their own, it takes time. There is always going to be that fear where you feel, are we on the right track? Is this the right offering that we are putting out across there for the students to come to? And you would feel disappointed that time, and that enough forms would not fill up or students would not apply. But then, of course, that drove us to come up with more innovative practices. We didn't say we are offering a lower product. What we would say is that maybe the way we are approaching this, or the way we are trying to market this, is different. So maybe we had to innovate and think out of the box and come out with different solutions. And that's what we have really done over the last 2 decades or so, where Indira has always been pretty innovative in its approach of trying to reach students out, where we over the years came up with something called as the Indira Youth Yatra, where a bunch of our directors and good faculty members, senior faculty members went to different cities, and we carried out an interaction with parents and students. So the formats kept evolving and changing, and we realized that you have to take that in stride. There's never going to be a day where you're going to go and get a overpacked hall or a overfull conference room every time. That doesn't happen even today. So that's something which we have learned, and we've taken that into our stride and realized that we need to change and keep innovating us.
So, what I'm hearing from you is that it is okay for all the startups and entrepreneurs who start out to pivot and to have patience and perseverance to wait. It happens to everybody, irrespective of the industry. Correct,
Oh,
Chetan?
absolutely. Unless you come out with a super product like a Facebook or something, then of course you don't have to worry. The product itself will spread like fire. But if you're not inventing the next Facebook or the next Paytm, then you better be ready to struggle and face rejection. It's part of the development process.
I'm going to come back to more questions because I've been meaning to ask so many questions over the years. This is just the right platform. We also have our participants who are engaging with us. So I'm going to start pulling questions from the audience. Simarpreet Saluja is asking, Good evening, Chetan sir. Would like to know what inspires you to keep going and bring impact in education industry. So I'm receiving a lot of questions, Chetan. I think I'll request you to kind of keep it crisp. Tell us what is your inspiration.
Well, there are quite a few things which inspire us to do better and lift the benchmark each year. The thing is, once you are in a field like education, you realize that what you're offering is going to mold the careers and the lives of the next generation. And the thing is, if what inspires me most is the challenge that I need to keep abreast of the expectations of each batch that comes in. So I think that's a great motivator for me, saying that, oh, tomorrow if a batch comes in, if my syllabus or the content or I talk to them in their language, if I don't know the digital changes or technological advancements or what they expect, or how maybe marketing is changing today and it's moving to things like the metaverse, and what the metaverse is all about, or what the AI, ML language, or you talk about cryptos and the what cryptos is doing to transactions across the world. If I'm not aware of this, how will I really be able to deliver what they expect to learn as skills or knowledge, which they can apply then to the industry or to the careers which they seek? So for me, the inspiration is that the youngsters who come in, they put challenges on us. They challenge me, the team which works with us, the whole group. I think that's been kind of part of our culture at Indira that we believe we are here to do good for the students who come to us, and they are the inspiration. And if we don't uh, live up to their expectations, then we are not living up to what Indira is all about.
Very well said. So I want you to tell us, because now the new normal has changed the paradigm, has changed the entire about leadership. A lot of things have been redefined now. What are your thoughts on the global competencies today? I mean, because especially we are talking about shaping the youth. How are, as educational leaders, we fostering global competencies?
Well, I'll take the example of what we do at Indira. Maybe first of all, what is it that what according to you or what according to me would be, say, three or four key global competencies. If you have to say a student is competent to work in a global environment, to go and interact with the people in a different country or a different region, then what comes to my mind is the ability of the student first to be a great communicator. Of course, having multilingual skills helps. So, besides English and Hindi and whatever local language you know, if you do have uh, basic communication ability of an international language, especially in a country or a continent where you want to go and work, that
Yes.
will definitely help. Then, of course, a cultural and social diversity is very, very important. So, I think colleges, especially who are catering to students who may further in their career go overseas and work there, I think there are more and more good institutions like ours who are recognizing that, and we are actually getting in trainers and resources who come and sensitize students towards cultural and global social diversity, etiquettes, interpersonal behavioral skills from the global
Cross-cultural
perspective.
communication, right?
Yeah, so building the not only the behavioral aspect of the student, but even from his knowledge perspective, his knowledge about geopolitics of that region, the economic alliances in that region, strategic alliances in that region. I think all these things add to building the global competency of a student or a future leader, right? It could also, I mean, besides things like people talk about innovative, being creative, design thinking, analytical thinking, and all. I think those skills are which are required even in India. Those are things which are common pan the planet. Wherever you go and do business, you require all that. But I think the entire behavioral side of living, see, going to an Africa and doing business, or going to a South America and doing business, or even just simply going to Europe and interacting with the team out there and feeling being accepted, I think is very, very important today. And colleges across India, some of the good groups are taking cognizance of that and are factoring inputs into the curriculum. And I think the pandemic, when you talk about the pandemic, it's made the whole educational world a global village now. Earlier, it was a lot about business. Indian education was still pretty insulated from international exposure. But in the last 1.5 years, we at Indira ourselves, thanks to some initiatives taken by our chairperson, who is a Harvard alumnus, she managed to get nearly 40 to 50 of her Harvard alumni entrepreneurs network to come and interact with our students. So we had people from different continents, literally, coming and sharing their case studies of their business practices and cultures, which was quite an eye opener and a great learning experience for our students. So these are the kind of inputs which are now easily accessible globally. We have at least a couple of international speakers every month or more sometimes who log in from different parts of the world and talk to our students. So this is a sensitizing which helps to inculcate and build global competencies. And I think it's very much relevant, especially for management schools, for PG programs, where there is a huge opportunity for students to either go abroad and work, or, of course, work with a lot of global MNCs or global corporations who are having business practices in India.
Fantastic. I think in so many ways you've also validated consultants like me who are trying to upskill a lot of
Oh,
professionals
absolutely.
and youth
Absolutely.
towards being more, globally aligned, because I think one thing that pandemic has done has dissolved all borders.
Totally.
Um,
Totally.
with work from home, with study from home, I think it's just opened up a new universe. Like you
Well,
said,
absolutely.
metamorphosis is the calling now. So Vishal is asking you, sir, what is your vision to have top quality higher education in India, why are we so very less research oriented?
Wow, that's an interesting question, Vishal. Okay, the thing is, India, the education system traditionally has been based a lot on rote learning. I think if you go and analyze this over the last 2, 3 decades, I'm not saying the immediate last 5 years, things have been changing, but the last 2, 3 decades or 4 decades back, you go back and you see that right up to your there's a structure of Indian education, whether it's the 10th exam, the 12th exam, then you come to your graduation studies. During our times, there were only three streams. You could either do science, commerce, or arts, and medical, of course, which was the domain of a very few selected people. And the entire education system was based on percentages and marks that you got and how well you did in your exams. So, people, the entire demographics of India, which was largely middle class, lower middle class, everybody wanted to secure their future. Education was a means to an end, and that end was to achieving a secure livelihood and a future. Now, research orientation or research is something which was not a highly paid activity in India. It was not a funded activity in India, only barring the top government research institutes like the IITs or the IIMs who got fundings, or the research institutes of national eminence which got funding. Majority of the higher education in India, which was driven by private enterprise or private entrepreneurs, research was kept at the lower priority. Higher priority was given to academics for placements, infrastructure, creating a good learning experience. And up to a decade back, research was kept at a very low priority. The fact that today Vishal is still asking that question, when I say that research has made a lot of giant strides compared to what it was a decade back, shows what a low priority academic research had in India. Today, things are changing. Thankfully, the government and the HRD ministry, the policymakers who come up with the education policies, who run the which govern all private education and universities in India, have over the last decade, 12 to 14 years, putting in a lot of efforts to make research important aspect of every faculty, every student who's studying in higher education, though it is of course not on comparison or comparable with international. If you're talking about Ivy League or top universities across Europe and America, or even Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong, yes, it's not comparable to that level yet. But now, I think in 2020 the new education policy was announced. They have also announced a national research foundation which is going to be part of this new education policy, which is going to streamline research across pan India, and there is going to be far more greater emphasis. So I think going ahead, if you are keen and inclined towards research, I think one of the biggest detriments, which was funding, is going to now improve significantly. And I think that will allow more students or faculty to take up a research based career. And I think things will change drastically with the advent of the new education policy, also emphasizing on the research part.
I'm glad you talked about the education policy. So, what's as a thought leader, what is your take on NEP?
Well, the ND20, of course, has taken a long time in coming. I don't know if the audience knows that uh, the last time when the government of India came up with a national level education policy was nearly 35 years ago. So you can imagine then to now, this is the first government which is really putting such a big emphasis on education, where what the NEP is going to come up with now is going to drastically change the face of Indian education. I think it's going to be uh, totally customer centric. The focus is going to be on of the students and the whole structure of education, right from including the preschooling, that is nursery, junior KG, senior KG, into the structure of the formal education. Up till now, if we all know that nursery, junior KG, senior KG was not considered as part of your formal education. It was something which was done privately, and you could do it anywhere, and you could join, get admission into first grade. Now that is become a part of the formal education system, and your education format will be 5 years plus 3 years plus 3 years plus 4 instead of 10 plus 2. So majority of the key changes, if I can highlight what the NEP is going to bring, is first of all, it's going to make it very, very interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, with an emphasis on the first year of your graduation degree. You will have a choice of actually taking subjects from science, social sciences, arts, and maybe engineering or or any other field as such before you go into your second year and then select your major and minor subjects. So there's, first of all, flexibility is going to be great. You're not going to be compartmentalizing your uh, learning processes into only commerce or arts or engineering or things like that. You would get a choice. That's what the government wants students to take some more time before they can finalize what stream they want to take as a major. Besides this, the government has now announced a dual degree format. So going ahead, students will actually, who are capable, who are interested, will be able to pursue two degrees simultaneously, which is very unique. It was never been done before in India. And I mean, there are multiple things. There is a academic bank of credits coming up, which will allow students to actually study in different colleges across India, accumulate credits, like how you accumulate money in a bank. A student can accumulate credits from first semester from one college and go to second semester in another college, accumulate credits from there, put it in his academic bank of credits, and eventually, by the time he reaches the fourth year, he could have had credits from maybe 3 or 4 institutes, and still he'll be getting a degree at the end of the course. So there are
Wow.
many innovations. I think it's been very interestingly designed. They are talking about things like a 4-year degree. Of course, I talked about that, but uh, the NEP also is going to emphasize on allowing students to do research. Since we are talking about research, there is a provision that after 4 years, students want to do research would be in a position to go straight for a research and even get a doctorate if they fulfill certain criteria and conditions. So I think NEP is pretty interesting. Some of the universities are already implementing it from this year, but going ahead, I think majority of the colleges in Pune or Mumbai, Maharashtra would be implementing NEP from the next academic year. And
Right.
there'll be provision, like in the UGC has come up with a thing this year, which is part of the NEP, saying that 40% of your syllabus can be completed online. So the government of India is going to be offering content through their Swayam portal. Swayam is a collection of content from some of the best colleges across India, like the IITs, IIMs, regional engineering colleges, who are putting up content there, and students will be able to learn from that content and get credits against that, which can be adjusted against the degree which they may be following or doing in, say, Indira or any other Ferguson or Wadia and Pune. So the system is becoming extremely flexible and favorable, where students will not have it, which was there in the earlier education system. A lot of flexibility, a lot of entry exit points would make it much more attractive and interesting for students. So NEP, yes, exciting times ahead. For even for educationists like us, it's going to be a challenge because it's a big change, and we will need to work with our team, with the faculty to adopt the change. There will be reskilling, relearning required by a lot of our team members to be able to adopt and deliver NEP effectively for the next generations of students.
Wow, very well explained, Chetan. Talking about policies, talking about UGC flexibility, I was a little concerned in the Ukraine war, what happened to our international students. Now, I'm not too sure if something we've done in terms of flexibility to help them with their credits. As a leader, what do you think we can do to help them be better, not lose hours that they spent internationally? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, excuse me. Well, Ukraine was unfortunate, but of course, it did highlight the fact that there are quite a few students each year who go out of India for higher education. And I think that is a challenge. It actually addresses or throws open a broader problem which the government of India has been facing and which it has not been resolved. Now, if you look at the students who are stuck in Ukraine, the number was close to around 18,000 Indian students in Ukraine alone
Yes.
studying medical education, nursing, and dental. I think 95% of the students were only pursuing these three streams. Now, if you look at it, up to the last up to say 4 5 years ago, India had a huge shortfall of medical colleges and nursing colleges. Okay, we didn't have that many colleges set up by the government because the medical colleges require huge costs. The way it is conducted in India, if anyone, even a private player, has to set up a medical college, in the first year itself, you would require close to 250 to 300 crores of an investment to start a college. So naturally, that deterred private players from getting into it because returns were much longer, and government had its own budget limitations and priorities. So we didn't invest in creating. Now the Modi government just few years back announced starting off nearly 40, 50 new medical colleges across India, and I think that's going to make a difference. But 18,000 students coming back from Ukraine, actually, this was not expected. So the Medical Council of India had a challenge, and there was no way there were that many seats available to accommodate all of these students in those years. There were some second year students, third year, fourth year, fifth year. So the government did put in their best efforts to try and accommodate them, but it's not really worked out because even the entry criteria for admissions to medical colleges or nursing or dental in India is different than what criteria these students were selected and went to Ukraine. So naturally, nobody expected a war scale activity or even to happen. So a lot of these students are actually left in the lurch as of now because of lack of a genuine, way to solve the technical problem to adjust them into a medical college. Secondly, of course, medical colleges in India, unfortunately, don't have vacant seats. So even if they want to adjust somebody and make them do a test or something and get them in, the whole process of increasing intake and things like that is a longer process. So, but I
Right.
still feel that a lot of private universities who had vacancies have provided some solutions and have requested the government to be a little flexible and adopted those students. And our students, of course, are very smart, so they have already tried to contact other similar universities abroad and internationally, and have tried to get transferred to those places. So I don't think that's something which we could do more. We are not, Indira is not a medical education, so we really didn't get to the bottom of the problem. And whatever I hear is just from hearing it from my peers and friends who do run medical colleges.
Wow. But before, there's so many questions which are coming in, but I'm curious to ask one more from my side before I jump in. And I promise all the audience that I'm going to take all your questions. Please keep posting your feedback and queries. So, Chetan, we are talking about how our supporting. Now, tell me what our government is not doing as a leader in education industry. You and I, we have without the camera talked a lot about what we could do, but I want to hear it from you, which can add value. And a lot of influencers on the show here, so maybe we can lobby together and influence the policymakers and the government in years to come in the favor of the youth. I think we are missing.
Okay, that's a tricky question, and I don't know to what extent I want to answer it very accurately or not. But of course, I'll say a few things from my own practice and observations. So, when an educationist, people like us who run an education institution, we have regulation which happens at two levels. One is the state level. So, there is a rules and regulation which the state education ministry rolls out, which we need to follow. And then there is the central organization like AICT and UGC also, which govern higher education. And we need to follow certain guidelines and rules which they put up. So what I've seen is in the last 24, 25 years, the government at the central level especially has not had sufficient, regulation which has been constant for say 2 decades or 3 decades. They themselves, the bodies have been learning from case studies of what educationists do in different parts of India. And regulation has been changing sometimes very randomly, sometimes very suddenly, and which has put private players like us in a fix, and we have had to adopt and change and modify our own things, even like infrastructure, just to name a few things, infrastructure or the faculty ratios or the faculty qualifications. Sometimes there is a clash between qualifications, what the University of Pune wants and what qualifications AICTE wants. And the gray areas create a problem for the directors or principals who are running these colleges. And if you agree to Pune University, you're breaking a AICT rule. And that's the kind of a simple example where there needs to be uniformity where the same language is spoken by the state government for regulating colleges and the same language is spoken by the central government. And quite a few times, I think these challenges are faced not only in education but different aspects of business or industry, where there are, a country like ours being so large and vast and so diverse, and so many times the government at the center and state is different, where policies are bound to clash. So educationists over the years have had challenges. There are multiple instances where we as an institution have had to go to the Bombay High Court for our demands to be met, or for something where we have uh, not been at fault but have been pulled up for being at fault, and we have had to challenge and prove that to the Department of Technical Education at the state or at AICT at the center, saying that, for no fault of us, you all are pulling us up. And I mean, 99% of those cases we have managed to put in our favor because we know that we have not been wrong. So yes, the government, I think the NEP could be an answer to this, where finally a government has come which is saying that we'll roll out a national education policy. So it's not going to be different for anyone. Everybody has to follow this format, a centralized bank of credits, a lot of guidelines for online learning and things like that. So hopefully, this would also bring in uniform faculty qualifications requirements. Just for example, now the government in the new NEP said that every teacher who wants to teach at higher education would have to compulsorily complete a B.Ed qualification. So if they
Yes.
don't have a B.Ed qualification, you'll not be allowed to become. So there are changes which are coming, which will make it uniform, and that will hopefully, uh, reduce this problem which educationists sometimes keep having with the government. Even this year, uh, last 2 years, we have had a lot of entrance exams. Earlier MBA education, the entrance tests were conducted at each college level. Then they got centralized. Now with the centralized exam, the MBA, just for example, I'm saying MBA, it could be for engineering, pharmacy, any course. The MBA entrance test at each state level happen on different days. So tomorrow, a MBA college, say in Madhya Pradesh, starts classes on 1st of August. In Maharashtra, our entrance exam is happening on 23rd August. So you can imagine
Oh,
college will start not before 1st of October. So now
right.
this kind of a disparity where students will say, why go to Maharashtra and study MBA when my own state, the college is starting on 1st of August? And we try and tell our education minister here saying that, sir, don't do this. The good students will go away to private universities or they'll stay back in their own states. And we as a state will lose out attracting the best if we don't have a consistent schedule. Now, this year there's no pandemic. There's nothing, everything is back to normal. But still, our state is conducting MBA and engineering entrance exams amongst the last across, all other states in India. So these are some things which we sometimes feel like pulling our hair out, saying that why they don't follow a practice which will benefit the students, because the semester starting in October is definitely something where we have to cram in a lot of studies for the students, and who's losing at the end is the poor student, who gets sold short because what he needs to do in say 4 months, it gets compressed to 2.5 months.
Chatty, I've always admired, with the clarity that you have. Can we hope someday you're going to be our education minister? Do you have any political ambition?
A lot of friends have told me that you should try and enter politics. I think I should have started a little earlier. Now we have politicians who are at 44 and 45, and they are the education ministers and things like that in states or at the center level. But definitely, I hope that we can continue to be good implementers of what they decide. And I think the NEP is something which we're really looking forward to. And I wish we can. I think finally there is a policy at a national level. And getting into politics is definitely not my cup of tea. I think I missed the bus some time back. Maybe if somebody offers a MLC or something like that, why not? I'll need a sponsor for that for sure.
No, we would always want to be the influencer and the kingmaker, whether you become the minister or not. But we need people like you. We need leaders like you who can, streamline our education industry. Okay, now I'm gonna getting a backlash from my audience because I'm not deep diving into the questions. Let me get in here because Keith is asking, what is the importance of an MBA and how does a management course help build a society? Clearly, an aspiring youngster.
Well, Sanket, an MBA, as you all know, a country like India, over the last 2 decades, this particular qualification, an MBA or a PGDM program, has been like a passport to a career for most of our students. I think even today, if you see uh, majority of the students after you finish, say, a BCom or a BA or a BSc, or to a great extent even B from the tier 2, tier 3 engineering colleges, students don't get great employment. The kind of job offers and the starting packages which they are getting, and which was the case even during our time, 2, 3 decades ago, uh, after a BCom or a BA or a BSc, unemployment was a sure shot given. And I think somewhere a program like the MBA or a PGDM became that qualification which a student could bank upon, could count upon, that after his graduation, if they didn't get that break, they would go and do this. And then if they went to the right business schools, they would definitely get an opportunity to get a better job, a better start, even as a fresher. So, somewhat, if you see that the way management education, I'm going to give the example mainly of Pune since I'm from here, and since we started in the mid 1990s. I think before Indira started, there were a handful of management colleges in Pune, maybe 4 or 5. From 94 till say 2004, the number institutions, it went up 300%. And at that time, if you go to see, like I said earlier, some time back, India was transiting from becoming an agriculture dominated economy towards a service driven economy. I think that coincided with the IT revolution in India. We all know the Y2K problem, the year 2000, when a lot of Indian
Yes.
IT brains India became the solution provider for the Y2K IT problem. Indian IT services, the Indian IT uh, back office services exploded as a boom. It became one of the hottest back office destinations for technology for the world, for IT especially. And as such, this, along with the boom in MBA, kind of drove the service sector in India. What is service sector? Service sector is a people-intensive sector. So what are we talking about? The growth of the banking financial services, growth of travel tourism, growth of IT-enabled services, back office services. So it's all service-driven, and services are largely people-intensive. And naturally, for these kind of things, human resources, manpower, marketing, MBA was the de facto entry qualification. So I think definitely MBA has been somewhat uh, a qualification which has enabled millions of careers across India. It has definitely helped to build a nation. There's no doubt that the service sector, largely, and the industry, manufacturing, and all, also, of course, the manufacturing boom also happened. And today we can say that agricultural manufacturing GDP contribution is nearly similar, while services, India is a service dominated economy. And that's definitely what I would say. If the business schools were not there, I don't think that would have been possible.
Talking about developing brains at the business school, Dr. Dolly said she's watching the show very avidly, wants to know how do you think we can stop the brain drain from India? Well, clearly a patriotic at heart. How do you think we can do that? I mean, everybody today in a sufficient background wants to do their masters abroad. Isn't that so, Chetan?
I think only those students who can really afford international education. See, again, international education, there are uh, many types of universities or levels of universities which you can go for. First of all, one thing, see, India is a hugely populous country. So, though I do agree that to a certain extent, the brain drain problem, I would say, is towards, if you look at the cream of Indian brains which go from the IIT IIM combination. I think that is genuinely a brain drain if a majority of those people go out of India and then settle and build their lives abroad. But if you look at students, say from a Indira or a Ferguson, or these are the students who are not necessarily the absolute cream or the IIT IIM type combinations which leave from India. So what I'm trying to say is there are many segments. See, there are segments in students also. Everybody has a right to pursue a career or an education of their dream. So whilst there are students who we feel is a brain drain and they go out, I think the percentage going out is minuscule. It is minuscule compared to what really remains back in India. So whether it's the uh, the IIT-IIM combinations or the people from Indira, Ferguson, Wadia, Symbiosis, Garware, Modern, any of the colleges in Pune, the percentage going out is not even 3 or 4% every year. So I really don't look at this as a brain drain. I think it looks at uh, it. I look at it that it's a acceptance of the Indian education system, which globally has takers, where other universities or companies internationally roll out the red carpet for the Indian brain and the Indian talent, and that's something which we have to be proud of. Today our education system, people say, "Oh, masters, we have to go abroad, etc., etc." I ask these people, "Why didn't you go abroad for schooling then?" So the schooling, the graduation, what we provided here was the foundation on which you built your education and your development of your mind. And I think after that, when you go for masters or higher education, it's an individual choice. I really don't look at that. And a lot of people, brain drain earlier was being talked about, and it's been over the decades we have had debates and discussions on this. But I think today there is a sufficient or a larger number of great talent and great knowledge remaining back, staying back, and helping to build great Indian corporations. Today, the world looks at us with envy and pride because we are truly the fastest growing GDP in the world, one of the fastest
Yes.
growing industries and service sectors. So I think we should be happy. And brain drain is a old this thing. Leave it at that. Those who stay back are helping to build a great and a better India. And I know how many people during the pandemic came back and didn't go back. They have all stayed back in India. So this thing will happen. It's a very minor percentage. Just let's ignore it.
Wow, I must applaud you on the perspective. This is a fantastic, very progressive perspective. Thank you, Chad, for
Absolutely.
sharing that with us. Okay, so let me bring in this question from Nitin Manik. Has the pandemic forced us to rethink how we want to deliver education? And are these new methods more or less effective than the conventional ones?
Well, yeah, digitization of education, as I would say, definitely has opened up a Pandora's box in terms of the learning experience of the student, whether it's a school-going child or it's a teenager in the first few years of junior college or uh, uh, UG college, or it's a master's education. Uh, Online education is here to stay. I think there are a lot of value adds which online education has brought to the learning experience, and a lot of that is in a positive. It's a positive change. I think online education has made the ability for students to learn at their own pace, to learn with a one-on-one focus, much more prominent. So today, though we are in a mass education system, sometimes online education allows that mass to be customized. So students can take tests or learn, do quizzes, consume content at their own pace in their own time. Compared to say 15 years back or even 2, 3 years, 4 years back, there was everything. Classroom education very much is very very relevant today. But I think the blended format which has emerged over the last few years is a wonderful format, and there are the positives which will keep getting enhanced. And we know we are a digital generation today. Nearly 9 million Indians have cell phones, one of the highest density in the world, and majority of those are of course smartphones. So close to 600 million smartphones. Now with these kind of numbers, we are consuming the highest amount of content digitally than any generation ever did in the history of humanity so far. And when you talk about
Right.
consumption of content on a mobile, naturally education is a part of it. You cannot say I'll consume only entertainment, only news, only other other
Everything
things
is a
online.
learning.
But education, I'll do only in the classroom. No, today a mobile has become an extension of the classroom. So apps, content, digitally consumed are in favor with students, and that's going to grow. The only what's going to keep changing is the innovation which will happen in this space. But that's here to stay. It's not going to stop anymore.
That leads me to the next question. Bhavna has asked, which of the digital technologies will impact significantly education sector in the coming years? What do you think?
So digital techno, I think video is video has been one of the greatest impactors on education in a very simple way. So if you talk about the last 1.5, 2 years, what has come to prominence, what has come to the fore, are uh, video technologies like what we are actually using just now on YouTube or on LinkedIn, to communicate together so easily, and have a learning session, have an interaction, have question and answers being thrown at each other, which was not possible 2 years back. So video is one of the biggest ways. Now video can be through multiple apps, through multiple formats, and those will keep evolving. So if you look at right now, we are looking at a 2D consumption or a 2D way of communicating through a screen. Tomorrow, the metaverse is bringing in where you can actually be inside your classroom with other students from the comfort of your home. But you will find you are actually walking around in your college, you are visiting your canteen, cafeteria, you're visiting your auditorium, you're sitting, visiting a lab, and the entire classroom, college can be replicated in the metaverse. So anything can be put out there. There are soon VR handsets and goggles coming out, which are going to be much cheaper and far more accessible and affordable to the future generations. And once that happens, the AR, immersive technologies, the use of that in education is going to go on increasing. So get ready for that revolution also.
Yeah, the revolution is already coming in, and I think leaders like you are leading the way. Chetan, it's a weekend evening, and I didn't even realize it's been almost an hour. I hope I can
Wow.
take some more time. We have a few more questions, but I
So
don't
we'll
want
take
to
a few
tire you.
questions as long as the audience is not run away and it's only you and me talking. So as long as we have an audience, we'll take a few questions.
Okay, so I need to take Colonel Jaitley's question. I mean, he's my father and a fellow director. So he's saying, Chetan, invest teachers in management institutions juggle between industry and teaching colleges. Of course, we know that they have to get industry credits. Why in India we have teachers who have never been part of industry? Does it affect the quality? What is your personal take on this?
Oh, 100% it does affect the quality because faculty in India, naturally, who finish a graduation degree, we've had cases where, especially maybe in courses like BSc or engineering, where the student has an inclination for academics, doesn't want to go to industry, has never seen industry, and they come and start teaching the academics, which just a few years back have given an exam and cleared. So naturally, that limits the learning experience of the student. But especially management education over the few decades, we at Indira have always tried to get a blend of faculty where we have academics taking care of academic inputs, and for the same subjects we get domain experts from the industry for marketing, HR, finance, manufacturing, supply chain, logistics, whatever you talk. We will get industry experts to come and supplement or support the faculty in getting the students to understand the application or the practical side of what they are learning. But yes, of course, to faculty. But today, just for another innovation which has come up in the last few years, a lot of colleges are actually tying up with industry or industry platforms like chambers of commerce and things like that, where they are sending faculty out for a 2 or 3 or 4 week orientation in certain companies and industries, so that faculty actually get to see how processes and business practices are followed in these organizations. So there are innovations like this being done, where actually faculty do a summer project or an internship, and they come back definitely far better, more confident to then teach the students.
Great. We are receiving a lot of validation and acknowledgement from our viewers, Chetan, that we are adding a lot of value and knowledge. Thank you for continuing to share that. Swapnil wants has a very interesting question. So I'm going to take this first. We
Sure.
write that Indians like Sundar Pichai, Nadella, and Parag are heading leading US companies. What is the status of our average college degree in international job market? So obviously we see these global icons. What do you think? Where does how valuable is our degree? Well, part of it, Swapnil, he's already answered, but we're going to do a quick take on this before I.
Okay, so I'll give you an answer on this. Just I'll tell you, October, what, November 2021, end of November 2021, I was in Dubai with my family. We went to see the World Dubai Expo. It was an amazing experience. And when I before going there, I put up on my Facebook and Messenger saying that I'm going to be in Dubai, and I would like any alumni to connect with us. And I got, of course, quite a few, highs, hellos from Dubai, UAE region, where Indirites are working and studying in global corporations out there. And there were a few who I met who have passed out from Indira way back in 1996, 97. Literally the first batch of MBA from Indira. And I met her and her husband. They're both from Indira. They are settled in Dubai for the last many years. And similarly, quite a few other parts of the world where we have gone, there has always been an Indirite somewhere or the other. So now, what I want trying to tell you is, see, Indira is not a top tier A IIM category institution. We are a tier two quality education provider. We know what the corporate or the industry needs, and we try to come up with the best inputs to meet the requirements of the society and the industry. And I think the fact that Indirites are in every part of the world today, so that I'm saying that if you're talking about an average Indian qualification, a good educational institution from India, we do prepare manpower for the world. I met somebody in Australia. I have a student who I've had coffee with in uh, London in Piccadilly Square, and he's working for a bank out there. And today, Indian operations of Indian companies are also all across the world. SBI, HDFC has offices across the world, and they send our own students who are passed out have joined them to go and take care of these operations. So it's definitely not only joining Indian companies but MNCs abroad. I think if you go to the Middle East, majority of the middle management out there, executives out there, are from Indian business schools and Indian engineering colleges, and these are all from the tier two good quality institutions. So I think the Indian this thing has acceptance globally. Of course, if you're a fresher and you expect to get a global job, that may be tough. But once you graduate from engineering or your management qualification or any other BSc, BCom, you get a few years of experience in India, then the world's your oyster. You can go anywhere you want
Well, and
if
if
you are qualified enough.
sure. And for qualifications, you have Indra Group, who are your enablers, who are empowering you and
Absolutely,
guiding you. Guiding you. So I'd
very
like
much.
to acknowledge Dave, who's joined us. I did set from the United States of America. We have a lot of people joining in. Thank you, Dave. He's saying, I hope educators in America are also watching. Some interesting ideas and thoughts being discussed. Thanks. He's our North America partner. Thank you for your time. It's
Thank
early
you.
morning.
Thank you, Dave,
Wow. So,
for logging in.
there are many questions which are still unanswered. I'm going to take the last one and let me tell to all the audience, I have
Sure.
an interesting rapid fire round planned with him. And I'm going to tag Chetan because this is being streamed live on multiple social media platforms. So, Chetan, I'm going to tag you if any of the questions are not answered. Maybe on social media, wherever I tag you, you can answer it right there and then.
Okay, sure.
Awesome. So let
I,
me bring in Uday. Well, Uday is a Team Tally alumni, and he's a keen learner. So he says, "Hello, sir. What's the academic difference between one and tier two colleges? If they are same academically, then why there is difference in placements? Clearly, an affected one. What are your thoughts, Chetan?"
well, I think the difference in placements to a certain extent happens because of the status and the perception of that college brand by the industry itself. Certain colleges have been around for say 35, 40 years, and if that's the case, a college which is started just say 10 years back, it doesn't have the same status and brand perception as the older one who's been around for a longer time. And I think one thing we need to all accept and be aware, accept that it's a part of our society and the way we look at things. Everything just can't be uniform. There has to be there's segmentation. There will be rankings. There will be colleges or universities, and as such, this perception, even the industry feels that a top tier one college will be able to attract the best of talent or the best of minds. But hear me out. I know a lot of corporate supers, they say that they have stopped going to the IIMs. Some of them say because we don't get uh, a fresh thinking process or a fresh, out of the box, innovative, on the street smartness from a lot of IIMs because they're all programmed to think in a particular way. And so we love to come to tier 2 colleges because we want the go-getters or the differentiators who would add value. So there will always be takers for all types. See, today you can't expect a student with 50 and 60% to be granted admission in IIMs, right? But similarly, I mean, it just depends on the efforts and the value which what you're doing at a particular time during your own career path. See, everybody has access to get into the IIMs. So if you want to be out there and be in that, you have to make it happen for yourself. Let's not blame factors externally. Rather, let's look at things that, okay, what you want to do or you should have done to be where you would have want to go, rather than challenging why the corporates are differentiating with their packages. So there is always a different way of looking at things. But I feel yes, there will. Why is there a difference between a Mercedes and a, say, Hyundai? There is a value perception. There is a difference in the product somewhere. And uh, well, if a buyer or the corporates think like that, we can't really change or challenge that to a great extent.
But like you said, the perspective and the opinions are changing. The bigger, organizations, they want more flexibility and adaptability, which from small town,
Absolutely.
hunger to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
better.
Right.
Let me now put you on the spot with the rapid fire. So brace yourself, and one word or one line answer, chatty.
No, no, I'm going to give long answers. I'm a professor. I cannot give short answers.
Okay, I'm going to start now. So, if we have to define your person, you would call yourself an introvert, extrovert, or ambivert.
Extra extrovert.
Wow. Okay. Your idea of relaxation, books or music?
Music. Sure.
Favorite holiday destination, beach or mountains?
Beach, beach always.
Who do you value more, friends or family? Now, this is going to be a tough one.
Both. Both are equally valuable. There's no question about that. But family, of course, is definitely closer, and friends, they have their own, you could say, the own joy and entertainment which they bring. That's a different thing completely.
Okay, so, and your choice of skill between negotiation or persuasion?
I think negotiation is a good thing because it gives both the parties a chance to come out with the best, come to a win-win situation. Persuasion is normally you want to persuade someone to see your perspective only, which then I feel is not fair and it's not a win-win situation.
And as management guru, who would you like to follow? C.K. Prahlad or Tom Peters?
Oh, CK Prahlad, definitely. I can share with the audience, nearly 15 years back, I had the pleasure of meeting CK Prahlad in Pune. He had come down for a YI, Young Indian CII function, and he spent an evening with us. And one of the truly amazing management gurus which India has produced. His, I think his work, The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid, the book which he released in 2004, is still one of the absolute strategies which a lot of corporations, a lot of startups, even today, follow and are finding success using the principles which he put forth. Tom Peters, a legend in his own capacity, no doubt. For me, I'm an Indian and I love CK Prahlad.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that experience. If you were not into education, what would you be? I'm curious to know that.
I used to play cricket in school, so I would have loved to be a cricketer playing IPL.
Wow, that's nice. We have some cricketers watching the show. Okay. You
Why
admire,
not? If you have to fantasize, you can fantasize about anything.
so you admire the style of Putin or Biden?
Neither, I would say, neither. Biden is
Any
like been a disappointment, and Putin, from at one time, I should quite admire him as a strong leader, but after the invasion, completely lost the plot. So, Neither.
So
I would
amongst the
say Modi. Narendra
political,
Modi is the rock star. Narendra
oh
Modi is the
wow,
rock star.
okay. I hope he's listening. Favorite
I
cuisine
hope
for
so.
you? Chinese, Mughlai, or continental?
Mughlai, for sure. Mughlai, for sure.
And and your favorite drink? Tea, coffee, tequila.
Right now, it's black coffee. So, coffee, for sure.
Lot of
If
students
I
on the
make
show.
tequila, if I make tequila a favorite drink, I'll need to start having it more often, and that's something which I cannot do. So, coffee, it is for sure.
Yoga or gym? What is your working out?
Gym for sure. Gym, cult fit, hit workouts. All that pandemic has taught us to do all that stuff now. Yoga once in a while, definitely, but I'm not that flexible. So the yoga asanas put me in a pose which makes me, afterwards end up with a lot of crazy
Need for a
feeling and pain.
physio session.
Yeah. So yoga once in a while, surely, surely.
Wow. And any day person or a sun person?
Oh, sunny day anytime.
Excellent. Then last message to all the audience who are watching. If you had to give an advice to 21 or a 24-year-old Chetan studying at an institution like Indira, what would that be?
Never miss Professor Chetan's classes. That is what I would tell him. The maximum gyan you would get out there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I have really enjoyed talking to you as always. And I'm very confident that from today's session, we have a lot of takeaways that and influence many lives that we spoke to today. Thank you, audience, for participating and asking so many questions. I promise you, I'll get you all the answers from Chetan on the various platforms you've posted questions if I haven't been able to take in. Chetan, your parting words with us.
Hey, thank you for inviting us on the show. It's been great conversing, and I think time has flown. When you said that we already completed an hour, that just shows that it was pretty engrossing for me and pretty interesting questions coming up. I enjoyed doing this, and of course, I'm very much going to be in campus next week. So all of my students who logged in and still feel that they want to talk some more with me, you know where I sit. Please come and join us. For the rest of the audience, on the fans of the D show, please send questions to Divya, as she said, and of course, we'll be happy to, reply to them at the earliest. Thank you once
And
again. It's been a
subscribe.
wonderful evening.
Please share that they need to subscribe to my channel.
Oh yeah, of course, they will. They will. As long as you keep getting interesting speakers like me on the channel, you will get many more subscribers.
And we have Apurva giving us a lot of validation, very informative and knowledgeable talk, and a lot of insights, a lot of thank yous coming in here. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating, for engaging with us. Your feedback is very valuable to us. It doesn't matter where we are, which industry we are from, but Chetan and I can say for sure that we value feedback.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much, Chetan. Have a great weekend and have a drink from my
Same
side.
to you all. Same to
Not
you all. Have a good one.
coffee.
Thank you,
Yes.
man.
Bye bye. Thank you, everyone. Well, if you thought that I was looking right and left, that's only because in a professional studio, I have to make sure that all the questions are pulled in and I'm multitasking to make this very interesting and engaging for all of you. A special thanks to Dr. Tarita Shankar for making the time and staying with us here throughout this session and engaging with us. It means a lot. And we hope that many leaders like you and Chetan step forward and talk uninhibitedly. I go to many leaders, but when they hear that it's a live show, they sort of pull back because it is unfiltered and probably they get scared of what I might ask or my audience might ask. So, once again, thank you, Chetan, for being here in your true element and answering everything and speaking from the heart. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, The D Show. The idea is to inspire you, bring you lots of leadership talks, leadership insights, people who actually have impacted or influenced my mindset, my life, help me be a better version of myself. At the Advanced Learning Institute, we inspire and imbibe this vibe, and therefore we'll continue our endeavor of bringing very interesting and invigorating discussions for all of you. Once again, thank you for joining in. Have an excellent Saturday evening and Sunday. The weather in Pune is very, very good. So I hope you all are finding the monsoons enjoyable. I will come back next month with another. Cheers.